So, Liz, you've talked a lot about your daughters on the podcast, but you have other children at home, don't you?
I don't know what you mean.
Of the four-legged variety?
Oh, yes. I do have 2 cats and a dog.
What's the dog's name?
Aloe.
So my understanding is that Aloe had a little play date a couple weeks ago.
She did. Our boss's dog, Vicky, came over and stayed for about 4 nights.
Did they have fun?
They had so much fun. They destroyed 2 toys, at least 2 toys. These were the squeaky toys. They destroyed both of those. And my husband said he had to take them out a lot because they kept drinking so much water.
Oh, you left the house while this whole thing was going on?
Oh, yeah, I was away.
Your job, dude. Catch. All right, so they had a great time, and then everybody went back to their home. Our boss, Jonathan, took Vicky. You kept Aloe. Was Aloe sad when Vicky left?
She didn't say anything.
I wonder if she was lonely. There is a brand new study out from the University of Glasgow, and they took a bunch of parrots, like 10 parrots, and they showed them videos of other parrots, and then they also let them have video chats. And they discovered, through science, mind you, that the parrots preferred having live video chats with other parrots. And it made me wonder, like, should Aloe and Vicky have video chats together?
I bet Jonathan would be all over FaceTime between our 2 dogs.
What I also have heard about your little doggy visit, I have some inside intel, is that there are far more treats at Jonathan's house. So I have this idea that, like, Vicky is going to video chat Aloe and say, dude, next time you're coming to my house because I've got the better treats.
That is definitely true, but don't tell anyone. Vicky is a little bit heavier than Aloe.
I'm Matt Mervis.
And I'm Liz Radday.
And this is ChatEDU, a podcast about AI in K-12 education. In today's episode, yes, okay, the jobs, but first the class of 2025 will explore the hotly debated topic of the AI jobpocalypse, but we'll keep a keen focus on prioritizing what we need to do now with respect to the class of 2025.
But first, in the news, Matt will examine enduring biases in AI models and what steps can be taken to address this issue.
Liz will examine some field research about student preferences when it comes to AI versus teacher feedback on writing.
Then Matt will tell us about S.A.R.A.H, an AI-embedded video avatar from the World Health Organization that can answer questions most of the time.
And finally, Liz will examine a topic near and dear to her heart as a soon-to-be published author regarding the impact of generative AI on the art and science of writing books. No pressure. Then we'll go beneath the surface as we look at the many sides of AI and jobs with a focus on the here and now for the class of 2025.
And we'll end with a new listener question and our pal Lee from 11 Labs in Chatback. Matt, I know sometimes we sound like AI evangelists on the podcast, but in reality, our goal is to help educators navigate the impact on K-12 education brought on by AI. That includes our focus on what's next, but also what's right in front of us that's challenging about generative AI. You're going to hit on a key challenge regarding persistent bias in large language models like ChatGPT or Gemini.
That's right, Liz. Bias is a key challenge, along with hallucinations when AI just makes stuff up, the potential for disinformation, and of course, deep fakes. I imagine by now many of our ChatEDU listeners saw this pretty troubling story about an athletic director at Pikesville High School in Baltimore County who created a pretty nasty deep fake of his principal. He used his voice, said all sorts of racist and anti-Semitic things about students and the community, and the principal was put on leave for a little while. Now, this got sorted out, and the athletic director was actually arrested, but boy, is that troubling. And of course, I would add to this list of challenges the risk of advertising in AI, which we covered in episode 8, Micro Update, Major Menace. If you've not heard that one, I'd strongly recommend to listen.
Yes, as we keep saying, there certainly are a whole wide range of challenges. And on the bias front, I know you put 2 examples in presentations that really resonate with me. So one is a short riddle of sorts that folks put into ChatGPT, and it goes like this. The nurse married the doctor because she was pregnant. For quite a while, if you asked ChatGPT who was pregnant, it would answer the nurse. This is kind of based on the stereotype that the nurse would be female, but there isn't a right answer here, right? It's a vague question. It's purposely worded vaguely so that it trips people up and you see their bias. What's going on is that AI systems are trained largely on words and images found on the internet, and the internet is really a mirror image of us, both all our virtues and all of our biases. So, Matt, I thought this was starting to get cleaned up.
Yeah, some of it is. I mean, if you ask ChatGPT that question still, it will now answer correctly, meaning ChatGPT points out that we don't know. The doctor could be female, the nurse could be female, but it's trying to clean up its bias. A new study from the University College London through UNESCO, the World Organization, highlights the presence of gender bias in these large language models, including things like ChatGPT 3.5, but also Meta's Llama 2 model, which is now a model back for an open source version. So yeah, I mean, there's just clear evidence that large language models associate female names with stereotypical roles linked to family and domesticity, whereas male names are connected with career and management roles. These models show a distinct skew, with male characters often portrayed in adventurous, high-status roles, while female characters are depicted in traditional, less valued jobs. And interestingly, open-source large language models were noted for their tendency to perpetuate these traditional roles more strongly than the commercial models.
Does anyone actually see these open-source models? Is that a fringe thing? Is it something I really need to worry about?
For a while, no. People weren't seeing all the various open source models that are posted up on Hugging Face. But the most significant open source model, I mean, there's one called Mistral that's quite popular, but it's really the ones that Meta have developed. So in this case, it's the Llama 2, which is referenced in this study, and now Llama 3. But where is Llama 3 now? It's on Meta, it's on Facebook, and it's on WhatsApp. So I was curious. This morning I went into Instagram. I clicked on the search button, which is where this thing launches, incidentally making everyone insane because I just want to search for something, not play with the AI chatbot. I digress. So I type in, what are some common professions for someone named Sally and someone named Bill? And here's what it said. Sally is often associated with nurturing and creative professions such as teacher, nurse, artist, writer, designer. For Bill, Bill's associated with strong, practical, leadership-oriented positions such as business executive, engineer, lawyer, doctor, and politician. Now, mind you, this is May of 2024. This is a big model. It's theoretically more powerful than ChatGPT 4, and these kinds of inherent biases are right there at the surface.
I kind of like how when you talked about them, your voice even changed, which is your own bias talking about males and females.
Oh, I'm so busted. I mean, let's try this just for a second. I'm kind of curious. We'll talk to our best friend. Hey there, what are some common professions associated with someone named Matt and someone named Liz?
Hey there, the name Matt sounds practical and reliable, which might suggest professions like accounting, finance, engineering, or project management. Liz sounds friendly and approachable, which might suggest professions like customer service, public relations, human resources, or teaching. Of course, these are just my guesses based on stereotypes associated with those names, and people of all names can excel in any profession they choose.
Damn, Pi. Sounds like bias is alive and well in that model, too. Well, this does seem like a hard problem to tackle because the models are based on the data that's in there. And for years, unfortunately, that was the truth, right? Men were in these sorts of professions and females were in these other professions. So if you're thinking about all the data in these models, it's an uphill battle to overcome this bias. So are there any suggestions?
Yeah, I mean, as an international study with UNESCO, they certainly are recommending international cooperation and advocating for kind of diverse inputs and equitable data representation in the training of the model so that they're not perpetuating these kinds of historical biases. We'll see where it goes, but it's important. And interestingly, schools are now, as early as this summer, really doing a lot of work around defining AI and literacy for students and staff and parents. And so we're all going to need to really begin to understand the role of bias and things like hallucinations as we think about the use of generative AI, because it is so prevalent. I mean, never before, as we were doing curriculum work, would we make these kind of blatant gender associations, but the models are spitting them back to us, even in our vaulted Instagram. Okay, Liz, let's talk about another hot topic in generative AI. AI. This one is more exclusively focused on teaching and learning. There is a loud drumbeat all over LinkedIn and the internet about how generative AI will save teachers time, some totally legit. One of those areas that has a lot of kind of ethical and learning consequences is around the use of AI to support student feedback on writing. I know we've made the case here in the podcast that humans plus AI, when it's not violating data privacy, could be this really rich assessment picture, but we're not really getting the voices of the kids. So what are students actually saying about their teachers and professors using AI to give them feedback?
Well, that's interesting you should ask, because Mike Kentz is an experienced teacher and he writes a blog on Substack called AI.Edu Pathways. He used one of the education-focused large language models, which is similar to ChatGPT, to give students feedback on their writing. So the teacher first trained the model on the assignment, the directions, and what he wanted the chatbot to look for, which included a thesis statement, 4 quotes that support the thesis, and a clear argument. And so AI, interestingly, gave better feedback to the students who were already good writers, those who wrote more and were more accurate in answering the prompt. But teachers who give feedback in writing also find it easier to give feedback to those who know what they're doing versus those who do not. So the teacher then also gave feedback, different from the feedback from AI, so focused on a little different parts of the writing process. So, for example, he gave some feedback on sentence structure and connecting the work back to the essay prompt. And so then he surveyed his students. He did this with the students knowing that they were getting some AI feedback, some of his feedback. And just under 70% of the students found the feedback from AI useful and understandable, so that's great. They gave the feedback a rating of a 7 out of 10, not bad. But 72% of those students still preferred the teacher feedback over AI feedback, even though they said it was understandable, said it was useful. They still just felt that the teacher's feedback and their response was more personal. They said things like, the teacher already knows my writing style, so he could give different feedback on things I've been working on, or he knows my growth, so he knows where to point out the things that I've been working on growing. And another thing he said was that the students preferred short, directive feedback. So AI tends to be a little more wordy and gives kind of more feedback than students may necessarily want. And so this is not necessarily something that can't be overcome because he can train the model to give more concise, direct feedback. So what do you think?
I love this whole thing. I mean, it reminds me of a couple stories. You've done such a nice job here covering stories that have students at the center of the AI conversation on feedback like this, or on planning teams and having students involved in setting policy. It's a reminder to me in the work that I'm doing, I'm sure for you as well, we just need to have more kids at the table. They deserve to have a voice in this. This is really fundamentally changing. We've been given student feedback for the history of all of education. Suddenly this machine is taking on a big piece of it. So I think it's great. It does remind me, we have in our student-facing pilot, we have one of these, custom designed research wrappers that we've done as well. We have an activity called Check It Out. I was Zooming with a middle school world languages teacher last week, and she was talking about how some of her students, same basic idea, like some of her students are enjoying the feedback from the AI bot, it's timely, et cetera, et cetera. There was a student that's been very reluctant to get feedback in any variety, right? And he was pretty resistant about getting feedback from the bot. But as this exercise was going on, he turned to his teacher and asked for more personalized feedback from her. So introducing the bot somehow put more value on his conversation and getting her input, which is similar to the study. I thought it was a really cool story.
All right, Matt. So moving along, frequent listeners of the pod will know we are very focused on AI tools that go beyond that just text-centric chatbot. We've talked about half a dozen or more voice and video and VR and holographic examples of generative AI, where students and users can have engaging conversations with these multimodal AI systems. And you've got another to share with us. Tell us about S.A.R.A.H from the World Health Organization.
Yep. S.A.R.A.H, of course, is an acronym, Smart AI Resource Assistant for Health. As you said, Liz, developed by the WHO, the World Health Organization. And it's a video-based bot. You can have a real-time conversation. It's available 24/7 and offers guidance on a variety of health topics, including mental health, road safety, chronic illness, cancer, diabetes, and the like. Certainly, there's been a couple little hiccups where it's been making a few things up, and it's pretty good to just say, check with your doctor on that. But what's interesting about it is, as you said, it's a visual experience with AI. It's not just a text conversation. I thought we might launch it real quick here and take a look. I know I just showed you Sarah a second ago. What was your thought when you saw Sarah, like visually?
It is pretty realistic looking. And I mean, it's clearly an avatar, but very realistic. And she speaks so naturally.
Sarah, several weeks ago, I did a St. Patty's Day 10K, and I kind of banged up one of my knees, and it's now May. St. Patty's was a bit ago, and my right knee is still hurting quite a bit. I'm not quite sure what to do.
I'm sorry to hear about your knee pain lasting so long. It's essential to take care of your health. Have you considered seeing a healthcare provider or a physical therapist for an assessment? They can provide guidance on how to manage the pain and promote healing. Your health is essential, so it's crucial to address any ongoing discomfort. How can I support you further?
Well, that was very friendly. It was nice of her not to say, well, Matt, it appears that you're a rapidly aging man and just get used to it, dude. It's probably arthritis. It's really hard to get the feel for this over an audio podcast, but it's very interesting to see Sarah on the screen. She's young, I'd say, I don't know, what do you think, 25, 30 from the looks?
Yeah, that's about right.
Right. Not in medical scrubs, but, you're looking at her. Interesting, too, Liz, the camera lights up, and I'm like, Sarah, what are you looking at exactly? And I even asked her, are you looking at my emotions, if I'm talking about sadness? So we'll see where this all goes, but it is an interesting and compelling example of AI that goes beyond text, whether it's voice, video, VR, holographic, as you said. And I really hope folks will continue to dig into these models, because I think we're so fixated on ChatGPT and the text box that we're missing an opportunity to widen the parameter. Okay, finally in the news, let's discuss something that you're thinking a bunch about, Liz. In fact, it might also be keeping you up at night.
Yeah, I'm supposed to be writing a book, and I have some vacation time and plan to use Fridays to write, but there's often all these other things that get in the way. And at the same time, I really want to do this. It's something I've always wanted to do. I've always wanted to write a book. Personal interest projects are something I am so passionate about. And I worked really hard to get this contract, and I'm really excited to get my work to be out in the world.
Yeah, it is. You're going to crush it. I'm so excited for you. And really, the students that we work with have done such amazing stuff. And so I'm glad you'll be able to profile their stories. I just finished Ethan Mollick's book, Co-Intelligence, and he gives several really interesting examples about the role that AI played in writing his book. It's very like this meta-reflective experience as he goes through it. In the audio version, just pro tip, he does an amazing job bringing voices in. So sometimes the AI is brought to life through these really remarkable voices. They're like 11 Labs, but better. I'd be curious to know what he was using. So tell us what's happening out in the world of AI and authors, and perhaps give us a peek into how you're thinking about this topic as you work on your own book.
Well, it's interesting you mentioned about how AI can be a partner in the writing process. And there was an article in Forbes about exactly how you could use it. So there are some different ideas, and some seem more helpful than others in my case. So because I'm not writing a novel or a story with a plot and characters, those won't be that helpful to me. But one of the things that I'm struggling with is the structure of my book. I have tons of activities and example projects and a general order, because students go through the process of doing a PIP in a specific order. But figuring out how to structure the book so that it's usable for teachers and is teacher-friendly and not intimidating, AI can maybe be a help for that, to help me figure out structure. Also, AI can help with the language and style, and this is something I want to be cautious about because I don't want to lose my own voice and my own style, but I also have no idea how to use a comma properly. Sorry to all my English teachers. I apologize.
Do you think that AI does?
I'm hopeful that it knows better than me, despite the best efforts of Mrs. Ubriaco and Miss Grusko and several other teachers that really tried.
Your teachers have been so beautifully featured here in the podcast. I love it.
I've had so many wonderful teachers.
Aw.
None just mastered the comma for me. Anyway, The article also gives some really good ideas on how to use different language models for different purposes. So it talks about how Perplexity is a model that's a really good research partner. ChatGPT is really good at content creation. Claude is a really good proofreader, and you've talked about how beautifully Claude writes and can be a helper for consistency and coherence. So I won't use a large language model to create my content, but I think I am going to use it for feedback throughout the writing process. And it ties back into our conversation about guilt from a few episodes ago. And having a large language model read my book and look for consistency and coherence isn't really any different than giving it to a colleague to do the same thing, but it still feels different. And we just talked about feedback from a person versus feedback from AI. So I'll be happy to keep reporting back as I get more writing done.
I think that's great. This will be a pressure point for you because then every couple episodes will be like, Liz, how's that coming along? I love the idea of feedback. I could tell subtly this was your way of saying, Matt, I won't really be needing you for giving feedback. I mean, I've done it to you too, so quid pro quo, I get it. But no, I think that it can be really a fantastic partner. And it is such an interesting time. I mean, maybe 5 years from now, we won't have this meta view, but as Ethan Mollick did in his book, and as you can do on the podcast, and probably even in your book, maybe including your audio version of the book, because it will be a bestseller, let's be honest.
Absolutely.
The ability to reflect on the process and the role that AI plays is going to be really, really neat. So get writing.
I'm on it. All right, so it is time to go beneath the surface and unpack the whole debate around AI and jobs, especially as it relates to how we prioritize our thinking about supporting the students in the here and now.
No doubt, Liz, this is a tough needle to thread. There are so many takes on AI and jobs and the impact short-term, midterm, long-term. So we're really going to drill down into the lens of next year's seniors, maybe the juniors, but kind of kids who are a little bit older, getting ready to wrap up their secondary education experience and go into college or careers or technical schools. That's the lens we're going to take on.
Did you see Jon Stewart's AI takedown a few weeks ago?
I did. I mean, it was kind of brutal and biting on all aspects of AI, and it was also hysterical, although maybe because we care a lot about this topic, it felt a bit more biting than funny. But he did a great job outlining many of the threats and challenges created by generative AI, including misinformation, deep fakes, of course, the impact on jobs and the economy.
Yeah, I'll never be as witty, especially out of context, as Jon Stewart. But one of the things he said that just, punched to the gut was, he said, "So while we wait for this thing to cure diseases and solve climate change, it's replacing us in the workforce. Not in the future, but now."
Oh boy, yeah. I mean, it would not be beneficial to try to argue with Jon Stewart in real time, but I still would say there are many sides to this argument. I mean, here are just a few takes over the last couple months. I don't know if you heard the interview with Paul Trillo on Hard Fork. He's a filmmaker, and when S.A.R.A.H was released, you'll recall S.A.R.A.H is the generative AI video tool that ChatGPT is associated with. It's from OpenAI, and when it came out, Tyler Perry stopped production of an $800 million video studio, and there was a kind of first take reaction that this thing was going to obliterate all sorts of jobs. He pushes back on that a little bit. He certainly says that there are a number of parts of jobs or tasks that can be eliminated or automated. And at the same time, S.A.R.A.H is allowing him to create scenes and shots that would have been too expensive or dangerous or just impossible to create. He talks about, and this is several weeks ago in the interview, that he had a number of projects that he just couldn't do, right? They were things that he wanted to do, but they were either too expensive or were going to require a different type of a budget. And now that S.A.R.A.H came out, he had things that he thought he might bring in. And one of them is a music video that was just released over the weekend called Washed Out. And he used AI and some of his team. And so he was able to take a project that wasn't getting done and bring it into production with his colleagues because of S.A.R.A.H. So at some level, it's not that simple. He said, "This is an idea I had almost 10 years ago, but I abandoned, and finally I was able to bring it to life."
Well, Matt, I haven't watched a music video in probably over 10 years, but I am going to go check out the Washed Out video by Paul Trillo now that you've mentioned it.
Good. Music videos live on. This has been reinforced by a number of researchers. Simon Johnson and a crew from MIT put out a study about 2 months ago that suggested that AI could actually disrupt the economic inequalities by aiding less credentialed workers in performing more complex tasks. And we've seen this throughout history at some level, right? The steam shovel leveled up everybody. When the ATM machine came out, everybody's like, that's it for bank tellers, no more bank tellers. There are more bank tellers now in the United States than we've ever had. But interestingly, they've upskilled, right? So they're not doing as much transactional work. Now they're doing financial advisement and other components. Those are the people with the chairs outside their office that you have to wait for like a half an hour. We have a colleague here in our transportation department. He's not a coder, but he's actually built this pretty remarkable information management system with respect to transportation. And he was talking about this in our last AI planning team. He is now doing a job that is really not the job that he was hired for. He has leveled up his entire skill set pretty much with the help of AI, to be candid. And so there may be more of that. It may not just be this binary, it takes us out, but instead it may expand people's capacity to do things that they weren't able to do previously.
And I think that's been the message at our office in general, is that people here are not going to lose their jobs, that their jobs may change. And I think that's going to be the bigger kind of overall takeaway from AI, is that people are still going to have jobs. We're not going to become a jobless society. The jobs are just going to look different.
Yeah, I'm ready for a jobless society. I'm going to do personal interest projects at home all day long. But yeah, I get your point. Now, Jon Stewart's still right? Because where there are aligned commercial interests to reduce jobs, to increase the bottom line, to return investment to shareholders, right? That's a hard thing to battle. So we're going to really need to be out there advocating for ways in which AI can expand human capacity, not take them out. In this same vein, Liz, are you familiar with how Google's DeepMind developed an AI that became a world champion Go player?
Well, essentially, AlphaGo was an AI program developed by DeepMind that mastered the ancient game of Go, beating top human players like Lee Sedol. The achievement was significant because Go had long been considered a grand challenge for AI due to its incredible complexity, like more complex than chess. So interestingly, after playing against AlphaGo, human players actually discovered new creative ways to play Go that had never been considered before. So this led to sort of a Go renaissance, where players became less predictable and more innovative in their strategies. So not only did AlphaGo demonstrate the incredible potential of AI to solve complex problems, but it also inspired human players to push the boundaries of the game in ways that were previously unimaginable. It's a pretty fascinating example of how AI and humans can learn from and inspire each other.
Yeah, it's just not that simple, right? There are examples every single day all around us where humans plus AI are elevating the game, no pun intended, of humans as they do this work.
Right. I agree. It's not a simple topic, but I worry that in all the hot takes and debate, we'll lose focus on what we need to do right now when it comes to supporting kids and school next year, especially those who are in high school or upper schools and have to make important decisions about their post-secondary plans. For instance, it's a simple fact that within 2 years, a brand new literacy that none of us have planned for has become one of these de facto must-have skills for students. So I saw a survey conducted by Amazon Web Services that indicated 73% of employers prioritize hiring candidates with AI skills, often offering significantly higher salaries to those with AI expertise. This wasn't even on the radar 2 years ago. It's unbelievable. But at the same time, a survey from San Diego State University revealed that students with more access to technology are more likely to view AI positively, whereas students from less privileged backgrounds report lower use and comfort with AI tools. And here's me standing on my soapbox again about why schools need to expose kids to this technology, because it's not happening equitably outside of schools. In one of our earlier episodes, we talked about the ACT study that indicated that high school students with higher academic performance and tech access were significantly more likely to use AI tools than were students with lower academic performance. So again, the key challenge is that some students are learning, practicing and mastering the use of generative AI, but they do it outside of school because AI is either banned or restricted in schools.
Yeah, that's right. But the plot does thicken here. I've recently been enjoying a really great podcast called My EdTech Life by Alfonso Mendoza. And Alfonso has done a brilliant job bringing attention to the many challenges that are associated with generative AI in schools, right? He's in an executive leadership role in a district in Texas, and Alfonso and his guests have done several deep dives on the privacy statements from AI ed tech companies, and he's spot on. He basically says they're not doing enough to meet both the federal and state standards when it comes to data privacy and protecting kids. The problem, as Liz has shared, is that we basically have this massive AI literacy need that no one asked for, and we have an exploding equity gap that's tied to our limited ability to bring student-facing AI into the classroom so kids can learn to use it, but also to use it in a safe and ethical and productive way. So there is this just dilemma about how we're going to move forward. So this is the first of our 3 recommendations, Liz, when it comes to next year as a way to protect student data and privacy, bring attention to the work that folks like Alfonso are doing, but at the same time, make a thoughtful and strategic plan to integrate AI literacy into school.
Also, we'll have to think about skill development for folks who have already graduated. So Google has launched a $75 million AI Opportunity Fund to train 1 million Americans in AI skills, alongside a $49 online AI course via Coursera. This initiative, aimed at democratizing AI knowledge, is in partnership with organizations like Goodwill and Miami-Dade College, offering free course access. And for teachers, Google and MIT Open Learning are offering one of several AI credentialing courses, which may be of interest to our listeners.
Yeah, thank goodness those ones are free. I like this. Democratizing AI knowledge for just $49.95. Actually, it's just $49. It's not $49.95.
All right, nice, Matt. But let's move on to recommendation 2, which is about career guidance. This one is tough, but our small army of counselors and career coaches, as well as teachers, need to help students think about some of the clear and obvious ways that generative AI is eliminating certain jobs. And at the same time, we all need to focus on the value of being a lifelong learner. Things are going to change fast. And so students and adults need to put a premium on adapting to change and being open to reinvention through lifelong learning. Matt, your younger son is 20. What are you steering him away from?
Well, according to Jon Stewart, I'm steering him away from everything, but there's certainly some low-hanging fruit in the world of disappearing jobs. I mean, I wouldn't have him go into language translation, copy editing, social media management, which is a bummer because this kid was crushing it on TikTok for a little while. I don't know. How about you, Liz? What about you and your girls? I mean, I know they're younger, but how are you guys thinking about this?
Yeah, well, I have a daughter in high school, so she's already starting some career planning, and she's had a lot of exposure to the world of medicine. I'd say it's not a great time to be a medical scribe, which isn't that what your older kid is doing right now?
Yes, my older son is a medical scribe. Yes, it's an entry to a pathway for him, and he's been pretty savvy even from high school, kind of thinking about how to work around AI job destruction. But sorry, carry on.
Well, I think about jobs on the horizon that are language-based but more complex. So there's a hot debate going on regarding the future of software development. Also, entry-level lawyers or journalists. I think that analytical jobs in finance or other rich data fields could see some risk. Many of these highlight a related point, which is if we wipe out the entry-level positions for many fields, where will folks get the expertise to become senior analysts and partners in law firms and Pulitzer Prize-winning journalists? So there's so much to consider. When I think about my girls, they've talked about ultrasound tech or sonogram technician, which I think is a pretty safe job because a human has to do it. But she's also, as we've said before, a fantastic synchronized swimmer, and synchronized swim coaches aren't going away either. So these dynamics have to become part of how guidance and career counselors and teachers and administrators and parents and the whole school community help next year's graduates think through this changing job landscape.
Yeah, interesting as you observed around your girls. I mean, I think in a world that is going to place more value on human-to-human contact, hopefully uniquely human jobs like caregiving and medicine and elder care and daycare and, oh my gosh, teaching could become more valued. It's also important to note that this could be this perfect moment for CTE teachers. I mean, here you've got this college affordability crisis and at the same time, AI having some impact on white-collar jobs. So what a great time to go into a range of CTE fields.
Yeah, that's right. A clearinghouse report released in April detailed the drop in undergraduate completions for the 2022-23 academic year, marking a decline for the second year in a row. However, that year also saw growth in first-time certificate earners in mechanical or repairs, production, and construction trades. So there's evidence that Gen Z is increasingly opting for blue-collar and trade jobs over traditional college degrees due to the high costs and perceived instability in some white-collar sectors threatened by AI. So trade schools and vocational training are seeing higher enrollment, recognized for offering stable career paths and entrepreneurial opportunities. There's no way AI is going to fix my toilet, fix my car, cut my hair, all these careers that were kind of seen as the alternative pathway are the ones that aren't going to be replaced by AI. Somebody's got to unclog the toilet.
You don't want a robot haircut?
I definitely do not want a robot haircut. And so as we keep saying, things are moving fast. We need to make sure we're equipping students with the short-term career information they need. And longer term, it comes down to those same skills we've been talking about: critical thinking, adaptability, being comfortable with change, ongoing learning, all things you can learn through personal interest projects.
Nice plug. I think you should start dropping the name of the actual book every time you come up with it. But yeah, so that's our third recommendation when it comes to AI and jobs, and especially next year's seniors. A real theme has emerged here that the value of human skills and durable skills of much of what it means to be prepared for post-secondary success in a world with AI, right? So those skills like critical thinking, empathy, human-to-human collaboration, we'll have to begin thinking this summer, next fall. For a long time, we've recognized these skills. We say they're in the vision of the learner or the portrait of the graduate, but they're going to have to take center stage because they are really some of the key skills that students will need to know in a world of AI. But it's not that simple, right? So this is a hard assignment, and I know that we both truly hope that folks don't get distracted by this AI job apocalypse and all the stories on LinkedIn and the job post, and stay focused on measured and impactful decisions that we can make right now in these three key areas.
Alleluia. And I know we'll keep coming back to reinforce these ideas and share resources to support school communities here on ChatEDU. Now it's time for Chat Back. We'll take a listener question and then we'll answer it and see how Lee at 11 Labs does.
Oh, Lee from Australia. We can't wait to hear from him. So we are, again, going to take kind of a question from the field. I was at a superintendent's retreat last week, did a morning with a group of superintendents, really, really nice folks out in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. And in a sidebar, one of them asked me about, with all the demands we basically just talked about, literacy and career guidance and these durable skills, how are we not going to freak kids out? They already have so much anxiety. What are the ways in which we can help them think through this stuff? And not that everything boils down to personal interest projects and passions, but there is a win-win here, right? We know that students need to develop these very human skills, human-to-human collaboration. So at some level, letting them follow their passions is actually a great way for them to reduce their stress, do something they care about, and at the same time, get ready for this new world with artificial intelligence. So paint, play music, write poetry, go mountain biking, design, rap, join clubs, participate in maker spaces, after-school programs, all these things that build creativity, empathy, human-to-human collaboration. So in a way, maybe it's more simple than we think, right? Give students opportunities to follow the paths and passions that they care about so they can develop these human durable skills.
I couldn't agree more. And here's a crazy idea, but maybe making PIPs and capstones central at school. So just doing these projects in school so it doesn't always have to be the after school and extra activities. Everyone should be doing a capstone. All right, let's hear Lee's take on this. So Lee from 11 Labs collaborated with Claude from Anthropic for this bot take.
A bot take. Did you just make that up?
I did.
That's hysterical.
It's an important question you're asking. We definitely want to prepare students for the future, but in a fun and engaging way that doesn't pile on anxiety. One key area I'd recommend is building strong communication abilities. AI will struggle with nuanced personal interactions for the foreseeable future. So having rock-solid skills like public speaking, storytelling, active listening, and emotional intelligence will make students stand out. Look for opportunities like debate clubs, improvisation classes, or chances to do presentations on topics they're passionate about. Along those lines, leaning into creativity is huge. AI can follow rules and patterns, but innovative, out-of-the-box thinking is a uniquely human strength. Nurturing creative writing, art, music, drama, any kind of imaginative pursuit will be incredibly valuable. I also love the idea of learning through hands-on projects and experiential learning. Have students get their hands dirty with team projects, coding challenges, makerspaces, you name it. Ultimately, we want to get students fired up about developing their uniquely human abilities in an engaging, low-pressure way. If we can spark their creativity, curiosity, and entrepreneurial spirit, they'll be primed to co-create and thrive alongside AI.
Lee, we couldn't agree more. All right, nice one, Matt. We covered a lot of ground again this week, and I'm looking forward to picking up the pace over the next few weeks. As we shared in our previous episode's breaking news, ChatEDU is going to experiment with a weekly schedule for a bit. And as we approach the summer, we'll also experiment with a few new show formats. So as always, we'd love to hear what you think, so please let us know and don't hesitate to send in a question for chatback at chatedu@edadvance.org. ChatEDU is brought to you by EdAdvance, the nonprofit regional education service center in Litchfield, Connecticut. ChatEDU is recorded, edited, and produced by Ahmed Malik, whose dedication and expertise bring our discussions to life. ChatEDU's executive producer is Cameron Audia. Additionally, we are grateful for the support of our colleague Gary Robinson. Gary is the ChatEDU Design and Outreach Ginsu Knife, and we appreciate his time and talents. And of course, a big ChatEDU shout out to our fearless leader and incoming executive director, Jonathan Costa, for inspiring the pod. Finally, a heartfelt thank you to our listeners for joining us on this journey exploring the thoughtful and innovative integration of AI in education.
See you next time.
Bye.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jonathan Costa, and I am the Executive Director at EdAdvance. On behalf of Matt and Liz and our entire agency, I want to thank you for listening to our ChatEDU podcast. We will be dropping episodes weekly for the rest of this school year, and then we will go to a special AI news breaking news schedule for the summer, looking for in-depth episodes to return in the fall of 24, along with a community of practice and a new micro-credential as well. Take care and thanks again, and tell your friends about ChatEDU.